Welcome to Unity of Charlotte, where our mission is to nurture a deep and mature experience of God through the practice of the unity principles. Simply put, we are here to love, grow, and serve. I'm Reverend Pat Dre, and I'm so glad that you chose to be with us here today on Zoom or YouTube. So let's start today's service by sharing our statement of oneness. And let that lead us to our opening prayer together. There is one presence and one power in my life and the universe. God, the good omnipotence. Join with me in prayer by taking a deep breath and releasing it. And knowing that breathing is our evidence of life. It centers us. It brings us to that place of peace, being beautifully anchored in the space where you sit or stand right now. And know that the space that you are in is sacred space all around you. And yes, within you. And know that God is in this sacred space with you. God is all there is. And from this place of knowing the presence of God and the oneness that we have with it, we are in the perfect place, the safe place, the place of ultimate kindness. And breathing in and breathing out again. Know that you are made of the God stuff. It is what lives within you, breathes through you, and exists in every single cell. And know that in this day and in the days to come, God provides everything that we need, without exception. And it shows up beautifully, on time, wonderfully, and we get to notice. These gifts show up, and within me I cultivate acceptance and gratitude. And today I contemplate expanding my faith in that beloved source that provides for me, always has and always will. There is no moment in this lifetime and the lifetime that follows that God will not supply. It is an ever-flowing source of everything that is needed. And in this moment in time, in this history around the planet, God is with us. God is with me. God is with you. Supplying everything that is needed. And from this place of security and safety, we send out our love. Our love to our whole congregation, our unity congregation, reassuring in those prayers they are safe, they are well cared for, and they are loved. And we send this out beyond to all of the United States, to all of those that are affected by the events that are occurring right now. And the message we send is, we are Godlights, all of us, without exception, recognizing the other Godlights. We expand a sense of the safety that flows through us to everyone. A sense of kindness and inclusion. We now radiate this out. And send the message, each and every one of you, without exception, are loved, cared for, protected. Radiate the love, the warmth, and the wisdom. And radiate love, warmth, and wisdom also to all of those who are part of the divine plan of protection, to all of our healthcare workers, to our police, to our National Guard, to everyone that is involved in protecting others and radiating your love to them and your kindness. They too are safe, and they too can radiate these God qualities. And from this place, sacred space, acknowledge that the universe is persuaded and directed by spiritual intelligence, and know that it is God's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Allow gratitude to fill your heart in this beautiful moment. And release this perfect idea, knowing that it is done because your words have power. And knowing that this is complete, join me in saying, and so it is. Amen. Thank you again for being with us this morning. Welcome to all of those who are joining us in Zoom. We opened our Zoom link a bit before the service, and we'll continue after the service so that you can talk with one another and with people here in the sanctuary. Those of you joining on YouTube, we invite you to subscribe to our talks and like Unity. That will help you and others find our talks and be able to connect with our broadcast at any time. And we look forward to seeing you in person in the not too distant future. With all that being said, we are with you. We are very much with you. And when we have the ability to begin again face-to-face services, we will have a great program for our children and teens, so please keep that in mind. And if you or anyone you know is in need of prayer, you can place prayer requests through our website. We invite you to do so at unityofcharlotte.org. Our prayer team is always ready to join with you in holding you and your loved ones in prayer. And also you can call the Unity's telephone prayer ministry, Silent Unity, at any time, day or night. Just dial 800-NOW-PRAY, and you will receive a personal affirmative prayer. We have two events that are coming up soon, and they'll be posted to the website. And Reverend Jim Fuller will probably mention them as well. And there is a Course in Miracles and a book club, I believe. So now we will have Reverend Jim Fuller join us and lead us in the monthly affirmation. Welcome, Reverend Jim. So glad to have you.
Thank you, Pat. Good morning. Good to see you here. I'll mention two other things about our Zoom and our YouTube. One is we will be having live Zoom every Sunday morning at 10:30. However, YouTube will only be live on some Sundays. It will be up by 3 o'clock every Sunday. So if you're watching on YouTube, know that like next week when Reverend Sally is speaking, there won't be a live YouTube. It'll be back up at 3 o'clock. There will be live Zoom. And the newsletter that comes out each week gives you the link for the Zoom and the YouTube. If you're not getting the weekly emails, just use the contact form on the homepage of the Church Unity of Charlotte website. So you can get that, and you will be able to connect in with that. Or you can just send an email to info@unityofcharlotte.org, and they will include you on the weekly newsletter that has the links. And we will be having our book club has been meeting. We decided we would be glad to invite anyone that wants to join the book club to join us on Zoom. We'll be actually meeting next Sunday. The book for this month, we'll send out the list. The book for this month is called Why Religion by Elaine Pagels, one of my favorite religious, spiritual historic writers, writes on the Gnostic Gospels and things like that. So it's also her biography. So touching book. That'll be next Sunday. The link will be on the newsletter. And then, as Reverend Pat mentioned, Alan is going to be opening the Thursday morning Course in Miracles group to anyone that wants to join that. And the link for that will also be in the newsletter. So, ways to connect. We're working on some other ways for people to connect too. So, yeah, thank you. Well, that said, let's find this June affirmation here, and let's read that together. Together we say, centered in spirit, I am healed, whole, and helpful. From a solitary's perspective, I may feel sad, sick, isolated, or upset. But centered in spirit, I sense my shared connection with wisdom and power of our universal source. Centered in spirit, I am healed, whole, and helpful. Those of you at home, say that with me. Centered in spirit, I am healed, whole, and helpful. So it is. Well, last week I was watching my friends up in Albany, New York, with their service. I guess it was 2 weeks ago, and they included a Ho'oponopono prayer, a Hawaiian healing tradition. It seems extremely appropriate for the situation we have going on here, because it is a prayer of forgiveness. And if you can see the words on the screen, it's a simple 4-line prayer. The words are sometimes used in different orders, but it's, I'm sorry. Please forgive me, as is spoken to the soul of the person. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And it occurs to me that with the situations going on in our country, a lot of us need to be singing that to a lot of people. So a lot of people that look like me need to be singing that to a lot of people. And others that may not look like me may have some people they need to sing that to too. Because in our lives, I'm sure all of us have done things, maybe unintentionally, maybe out of ignorance, maybe because we were angry one day, that we need to ask a little forgiveness for. It seems actually like that should be the theme song for this country. So anyway, they have a much better version at Unity of Albany. You can listen to their musicians sing it. Today you get to listen to me do it, and I'm going to do it a number of times. I just invite you to think of the people that you may have, I don't know, overlooked, ignored, stepped over, stepped on, judged as less than throughout your life. And I'm going to sing this through and invite you just to sing it with me a little bit, and then we'll take that into a meditation. So here's my simplified version of a pretty song. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you. Sing with me if you want. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you. If you're not singing, start. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you. One more. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you. I'm sorry. So just close your eyes. Feel the energy of that song and that prayer. That we extend to all those people. Black people, brown people, people who don't look like us, maybe people who do look like us, that we've stepped over, stepped on, treated as less than, thought of as less than in our minds and hearts. And may we extend silently the prayer, I'm sorry, please forgive me. In the silence. In the silence. Continuing to feel the energy of that quiet, the energy of that willingness to be open, the willingness for healing to be extended and received, for grace to work in through our lives individually and collectively. Feeling that. We know in those moments we are open to Spirit, open to God, open to creation, open to that which can forgive and release, set us all free and show us the beauty in one another. And for what we receive and what we achieve in our times of inner quiet. May we say to our Creator, to creation, thank you for releasing us. Thank you for releasing us. In the words of our former minister here, Randolph Wilkinson, we say 3 times together, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. So it is. Amen. And I'll invite you just to gently bring yourself back. All right. Yeah. Sometimes there's just some energy we need to clear out. I think that's what we're seeing around us right now. All right. Well, hi. Hello out there in the world. What a world, huh? During this time that one of our friends has been calling the Great Pause, which may be a great extended pause, I've been spending my time reading a good bit. And those of you that know me know that I like to read travel books. I like going places, but since I can't go everywhere, I can read about them, and I really enjoy that. It kind of started off with 7 years in Tibet. And all you ladies out there know I'm not talking about Brad Pitt in the movie, right? I'm talking about the actual book published in 1953, where Heinrich Himmel, I forget his last name, described his experience of being in Tibet the last parts of when the Dalai Lama was there, and what it's about. And it's like it opened my eyes to many things that the movie doesn't show and that we don't read in history. And that kind of got me going. And so since then, I've been reading all kinds of things, some spiritual. I've had several travels along the Camino in Spain and in France, vicariously. And I've run Buddhist pilgrimages up through China with writers about that. I've traveled through the Middle East, through Syria and through Afghanistan. I've been to the South Pole. I've been all kinds of places. Some of the writers I read are simply people who just talk about, what it looks like and what the food was like and things like that. They're not my favorites. My favorites are the ones that actually live there for a while or actually talk about the people and the culture and introduce me to the folks there and help me understand the politics of the place and such. It introduces me to new people. It introduces me to new people and it gives me that opportunity. Now, that may not seem highly related to the difficulties we have going on around us this week, except that it's a little distraction. But, you see, a lot of the writers that I really enjoy reading are also journalists who write for newspapers, for National Geographic, for Newsweek, and things like that. And so they not only introduce me to people and things going on around them, they give me a little background for the history and the politics and the culture and the experience of the place. And for a guy that never was that much of a history buff, it has been remarkably eye-opening. And eye-opening in ways that were kind of uncomfortable and painful. We think of civilization, Eastern civilization, Western civilization, classical civilization, and contemporary civilization. Well, as I read this stuff, I I realized that the history of the world is the history of uncivilized civilization. Uncivilized. There's always wonderful people. There's always people trying to do good. Sometimes they accomplish some really good. But it seems like throughout history, thousands of years of history, eventually conflicts, intrigues, jockeying for power, problems show up, and, it kind of goes south. I think that's a nice way to say it. If I could step back, which I could do somewhat, and look at our current national situation, our current world situation, I would have to say more of the same stuff with a little pandemic on the side. It's kind of what it looks like. Winston Churchill, during the Second World War, once described history as one damned thing after another. And that's sometimes how it feels. So that brings me today to the question of, how do we look at the problems we seem to have of this rather uncivilized civilization that we live in? And what do we, as spiritual people, how do we respond to it? How do we respond? I was on a Zoom call last week with a friend who commented that she simply had to participate in the local demonstrations. She said that as a person of color, she had to have some way to release the energy and the anger and the pain that she was feeling in her body. Beautiful insight. Beautiful insight. And so she chose walking, marching, which she said for her was a very peaceful, powerful, and positive experience. And I'm not surprised. That is the kind of person she is. I know that she probably not only benefited, as she told me, from being involved in the demonstrations, but being a grounded person, I would suspect that the people that were walking with her benefited from her presence. Benefited from her presence. It occurred to me that when we know what is ours to do, things like walking with purpose and presence can actually be a form of physical prayer. Can you think of it that way? A form of physical prayer? I think we can imagine that. Personally speaking, the last couple weeks have been anything but peaceful and calm for me. Inside, I feel very unsettled, very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. My heart aches for all the people that are continuing to suffer what they suffer at the hands of people that look like me and others. Hard to imagine that we still have hard to imagine in some ways, easy to imagine in others, that we still have marginalized people. And not just black and brown people, although thank God that's being brought to light very clearly. People who seem different. People who seem different. And that makes me at times feel very powerless, sometimes afraid, sometimes angry. As my mother would say, mad as hell, mad as hell. My mom was in the Navy. Back in the 1960s, my little mother worked in the segregated school systems of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. She taught English, language arts in an all-black middle school, where her kids struggled just to try to get some kind of a decent education. And she struggled to help them so that maybe some of them could go to college. She was one of the first in her fairly poor family to go to college. She did that to help earn money so I could go to school, and also to try to help some of the kids. All kinds of interesting inner feelings going on, for me at least, around issues like that. I think it's good for us to take a look and think back and reflect on our lives, as to what the feelings are that these experiences of our lives have brought up, and what the experiences of what we're experiencing now bring up. And again, what do we as spiritual people do? What do we as spiritual people do? Perhaps the idea has crossed your mind, it has crossed mine, that if certain people were no longer around, some of our problems would be solved. You know what I mean? If certain people were no longer around, we might be better off. Maybe you've got a little list of people like that. Maybe it's more than one or two. Good to be honest with ourselves about those thoughts that pop up, And then very good to take those thoughts and say, not my thought, not the thought I want in my mind, or in my world, Hopefully by now, at least we in New Thought have the wisdom to realize that trying to kill or subdue our apparent enemies isn't going to resolve our problems. People have been trying to do that for thousands of years. That's what world history has taught me. It just doesn't work. We've proved it in our own country. So we got to do something different, because a negative action or a negative response, killing or subduing, can't produce a positive result. It can't produce a positive effect. It just doesn't work that way. A negative action, a negative response can't do it. Even though it's hard to accept, problem people are not the real problem. The real problem are underlying issues. I would say spiritual issues. Yeah, their words and actions may be distressing to us, but the underlying thing is spiritual. And over the years, I have learned, it's a spiritual principle, basically, that whatever we attack, whatever we try to kill or bury, simply festers underground and then pops back up, kind of like zombies. Pops back up to chase us around and scare us and cause us trouble. Sort of like living in a cheap movie or a bad dream. Why do the zombies from our past keep coming up to terrorize and cause us trouble? Well, of course, because they're unacknowledged parts of us. They are unacknowledged parts of us. We can imagine defeating zombies. We've seen the movies. You go out and you kill and shoot and do all those things that human beings are so good at. But it doesn't really get rid of the zombies. What gets rid of the problem is unearthing and healing our buried stuff. Even though that may seem like a more grave undertaking. Sorry for that. If you spend time wandering around in your subconscious or your unconscious mind, you may have noticed that it can be a graveyard for old thoughts, old fears, old biases, old worries, all kinds of decaying stuff. That's why we have nightmares in our sleep. That's why you and I have nightmares in our sleep, is that old stuff. And that's why we have conflicts in our waking hours. Same stuff. But unity is always taught that the subconscious mind is also the channel through which inspiration arises into awareness. The subconscious mind is the channel through which inspiration, God, divine inspiration, arises into awareness. So as we find ways to heal and embrace and deal with that stuff that's buried down there, we open the channels. We open the subconscious channels for clearer understandings to come through, for guidance from higher sources. To find ways that are win-win. That's something I learned a long time ago. God is always win-win. If you're trying to figure out if an idea, if you have a brilliant idea, sometimes I have brilliant ideas, you probably do too. Sometimes the ideas benefit me a little bit or a lot more than the other people. A God idea is always win-win. No losers, no second place. In fact, I'd say a God idea is win-win-win-win-win. That's it. Good way to measure the ideas. If we clear the channels in our minds with our daily prayers and with our spiritual practices, we can open up for those ideas, those ways to heal. And I understand that healing, as we all need to do, always includes some serious forgiveness work. You get one prayer from Jesus, really, the Lord's Prayer. And what does it include? Forgive us our debts. Forgive us our trespasses, depending on how you translate. That's why I wanted to share that Ho'oponopono song. Out of the Hawaiian tradition, it's one of the things that they use to help clear and heal. It actually has had some remarkable healing results. You can find a number of books written about it. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Maybe I didn't mean to. Maybe I did. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. It's also why I wanted to share the story about my friend, prayerfully demonstrating for justice, for equality, for peace. Your form of prayer, your form of connecting, that's going to come from within you. And ultimately, we all have to get to the place where it's just win, win, win. Where it's just win, win, win. We have to resist that tendency to say, I need to get rid of these, I need to suppress or bury these. No more zombies down there. Let's not make any more zombies. We don't need to deal with that. As I was reflecting on this, it occurred to me that, it's really when our attachments and our ideas about separateness and otherness, and that's really what all of our problems are about. They're all about separateness and otherness. When our attachments and our ideas about that become intolerable to us personally, then we naturally begin dismantling the barriers and the divisions we've created, don't we? Maybe that's part of the blessing of all that's going on around. It just becomes intolerable the way things are going. And we have to begin dismantling. And once those things are dismantled, the automatic response is to feel the connection with everybody. With everybody. And to want everyone to win, win, win. Win, win, win. Some people would call that, an experience of oneness. Some people might call it ultimate reality or heaven or God, whatever you want to call it. I believe it's available to us now. It may not always be easy because we have to go through a little inner pain because we've got some junk down there buried we need to deal with. If what we're experiencing now is painful, is unsettling, mine is for sure, then that means there's some work, some things I need to do to unblock the channels. About 10 days ago, part of what inspired this is about 10 days ago, I woke up in the morning with this sentence going through my mind as I woke up. The sentence was really simple. It said, the world I see lives in me. The world I see when I look out there lives in me. I'm afraid that's probably true for all of us. The world as I see it lives in me. So what am I going to do about that? Well, we're all kind of familiar with Jesus' sayings about letting our light shine rather than hiding it under a basket. Pretty familiar little Jesus set of sayings. Clearly, a light under a basket doesn't help anybody, does it? Do you guys know the origin of that little story or saying or what's behind it? Back in Jesus' time, families, extended families, all lived in the same house, often one big open area. Houses back then didn't have big picture windows. They were dark inside. They didn't have glass and stuff. That was cold. And so people had to have their little bitty lamps with their little bitty wick, little oil lamp to light the house. And you might have several families, several groups of a big extended family living in one house, and everybody might not have money for oil. Oil took money. A lot of things took money. These were not well-to-do people. And so, if part of my family, if my cousin over there had a lamp with oil, he'd put it out, and it would kind of light up that part of the house. If my cousin was being a jerk, he might put the lamp where it wouldn't show, except in his part of the house. Right? Don't hide or as Jesus said, under a basket, being a kind of making an example of it. The light was shared. If people did that, if people shared the light, I'm sure there was happiness within the family, right? Kindness, an extension of kindness and sharing. If I'm feeling cranky with my cousin, because my cousin has irritated me, and I set my light kind of down here on the floor, what kind of energy does that put into the house, into the family, into the family? That's how I understand that saying about don't put your light under a basket, let it shine. It's one of the ways. In the Gospel of Thomas, he makes a couple interesting comments. One, he says, there is a light within a person of light. There is a light within a person of light, and it shines on the whole world. When it does not shine, it is dark. When we don't let our light shine, our world is dark. Go a little farther in the Gospel of Thomas, and Jesus gets a little more pointed. He says, if you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. If you bring forth what is already within you, what you have will save you. If you don't have that, you don't bring that forth, what you don't have will kill or destroy you. That's some of what we see going on. I've always enjoyed the Gospel of Thomas, and Elaine Pagels is one of the people who writes about the Gospel of Thomas. She's written a couple books on that. They're pretty easy read. I can read them. It's nice to think we can fix our world by passing kinder and more fair laws, right? Or by electing and hiring better officials. Good laws, uniformly enforced, and officials who have integrity and wisdom. That's pretty highly desirable, isn't it? We want that. But we also have to remember who and what we are. Because, we are not just little pitiful clots of bone and blood that must be, shepherded and subdued by external forces. We're powerful created beings. We are divine beings. We are the engineers. We are the creators of our lives and of our life experiences. And until we get busy and unearth those hidden obstacles, the channels we have for creative understanding and energy are not going to be open to allow us to discover those win-win situations, to get that God inspiration. We leave the channels down, the underneath channels, all the junk buried down there. We leave that there. We just continue the unfortunate chain of inhuman humanity or inhumane humanity and uncivilized civilization. I'm not saying this is an either-or situation, not either better laws or inner healing. I'm hoping we approach it on both fronts. To the extent that we approach it with unobstructed inner channels, we're obviously going to have a much greater chance of succeeding in releasing ourselves from the ignorance and the racism and the oppression that has been holding us all captive, every last one of us. That's caused us to cause pain and suffering where it didn't need to be. It doesn't need to be. So I invite you to consider what that little voice inside my head said. The world I see, oh yeah, all of it, lives in me. What's the world you see look like? Is it a call for some cleanup work, maybe some forgiveness work, to improve your world? As our old minister used to say here, Randolph Wilkinson, in enlightened self-interest. In enlightened self-interest, we do that. So, a time for offering some forgiveness, a time for healing and releasing some old judgments and angers and biases. Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, if you bring forth what's within you, it's going to save you. If I bring forth what's within me, it's going to save me. Know that for yourself. So I usually do a little affirmation at the end. At the end today, though, I'm doing what's basically a little prayer. Did it in some simple lines, so hopefully even those of you at home can read this. And it simply says, today I choose forgiveness over hatred, compassion over judgment, and love over anger. May we all be healed as one. Read that with me if you would. Today I choose forgiveness over hatred, compassion over judgment, and love over anger. May we all be healed as one. Just close your eyes and let that settle in. May we all be healed as one. Clearing out that buried junk, letting it go, being willing to let it go. As long as we're willing, Spirit finds a way. Our job is to be willing and say, yeah, I'm ready to let it go. I'm ready to forgive whatever needs to be forgiven. Okay, Spirit, show me. Put it in front of my eyes, put it in my mind. Let me see what needs to be let go of. I am willing to let it go. And then from that point, we choose forgiveness. We choose compassion. We choose love. That we may all be healed. That we may all be healed as well. And so it is. Amen. Well, that's my thought for today. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody here again in a couple of weeks for what I'm going to call a pre-Independence Day talk. That's an interesting holiday, an interesting concept. We'll be talking about that in a couple of weeks. Next week, Reverend Sally will be back with us on Zoom. So make sure if you're tuning in the morning that you click the Zoom link and get in on the Zoom call, because the YouTube will be showing up later in the day. It'll still be there for you. You still do the YouTube. You don't have to Zoom, but it'll show up in the afternoon next week. Well, we're coming to the part of the service where I get to remind you that Unity of Charlotte exists because we, as the members of the church and members of the community, support it. And even though we're not getting to meet in our nice building right now yet, we do still have to keep the building going and pay the rent and keep everything going. So it's an opportunity for us to share an offering to keep this going strong. There's a couple ways you can share your offering. One, you can mail a check to Unity of Charlotte. The address is here on the screen, 401 East Arrowwood Road, Charlotte, 28217. 401 East Arrowwood Road, 28217. Or, the easiest way, and my favorite, is to simply take my phone, go to unityofcharlotte.org, and just make an online offering. And it's really nice because I get almost an immediate email response back acknowledging my offering. I know it's gone through. And going through on my phone, it's nice and safe and don't have to worry about that. So, wonderful way to do that. So, I'm going to invite you right now to hold whatever you brought to share, either in your hand or in your heart. And just join with me as we read together our prosperity blessing. And together we say, joyously I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. And so it is. And so it is. And thank you all for your continued support of Unity of Charlotte. We can do it together. And that's the only way we do it, is together. So thank you. Well, we're going to close with our prayer of protection. And if you're on Zoom, please feel free to stay with us online. We'll leave the Zoom link open for a little while so you can chat with your friends. We'll unmute you so you can talk with one another, and we'll look forward to seeing everyone very, very soon. So here goes our prayer of protection. So hey, since we can't join hands with each other, in your imagination, join hands with the angels on either side of you. How about that? So we're all connected together. Just imagine angels or beautiful spiritual beings on either side of you, holding your hands as we all connect together. And we say together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so it is. Have a beautiful week. Be chatting with you guys on Zoom. Blessings to everyone. Love to all. Thank you for being with us this morning.